celebrating the power of possibility.
I am Brooklyn Sawyers Belk, and I believe anything is possible.
This is Anything is Possible. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove, they're proof of concept, that anything is possible. And we welcome to the broadcast Brooklyn Sawyers Belk. Did you see this coming?
I did not. The call came out of the blue.
So you are the first, well, I'm trying to figure out, you're multiple first, aren't you?
That's correct. I am the first Deputy Chief of Professional Standards for Knoxville Police Department.
Right.
And I am the first African-American female Deputy Chief of any kind for the police department.
What does that feel like?
Surreal in many ways, humbling, very grateful for the opportunity. It also feels like a heavy responsibility. People might have a tendency to look at me as the standard bearer, and that always comes with a lot of pressure anytime you're the first.
So where does your story start? Where does your story of possibility start?
I grew up in southwestern Virginia, Appalachian Mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountain Range, and a small town with my mother and a sister, and very humble beginnings.
What's the name of the town?
Withville, Virginia.
I don't mean to laugh, but I am not laughing at your town, but I've just never heard of Withville, Virginia.
Yes, with a Y, W-I-T-H-E, Withville. It's where Interstate 77 and 81 intersect, and lots of people travel through there, but not a lot of people stop or live there.
What's the population?
I don't know the population, but it's a small town. I will tell you that we still have a main street that looks very much like something from Mayberry. And we had a Walmart come in several years ago, and that really was big news for the town.
So you're telling me you grew up in a town without a Starbucks?
Growing up, absolutely not. There is a Starbucks there now because Walmart's there, of course.
What was that like growing up there?
It was isolating in many ways. Small town, good folks, a great beginning, but very small. The community, lots of families were very similar. And I didn't have a lot of exposure. My little town was what I knew, and I didn't know about all the things that were outside of that community.
What did you think you were going to be?
I had big dreams from a young age. How to achieve those dreams, though, was a different question. I grew up watching a sitcom called The Cosby Show, and that show had a woman that was a mother of 5 children, and she was an attorney. Her name was Claire Huxtable, played by Felicia Rashad. You smile, maybe you're familiar. Oh, yeah. And as a young girl watching that show, I thought, wow, if I can be anything like Claire Huxtable when I grow up, I will feel like I've accomplished something and made something of my life. So that was a big goal from a young age.
So you wanted to be an attorney?
Absolutely. Now, I want to clarify, wanting to be an attorney is different than believing that I could become an attorney. So
Did you believe at first, or was there a faith gap?
There definitely was a faith gap, right? I didn't know any attorneys. I didn't know anyone that looked like me that had even been to college. I was the first person in my family to get a bachelor's degree. So it seemed like an insurmountable task to be able to become an attorney like this woman I saw portrayed on television. But I held on to that hope nevertheless.
So you mentioned your mom and your sister. So you were raised by a single mom?
I was raised by a single mom. I actually don't have my father in my life, never have. So I grew up without that, but I had a grandfather and uncles who were very important to me and the male role models in my life.
What did your mother feel about your dream of becoming an attorney?
Candidly, that it was really unrealistic, right? We just didn't have that around us of anyone who had done such a thing. And my mother was very focused on me working and being able to provide for myself because people in our community had limited financial resources. So the focus was really one on work. But as I moved towards achieving that goal, of course, everybody in the family was very happy and excited.
Where does one find the faith to believe that something is possible?
For me, it really started in my relationship with my community church. For generations, we had attended this church. I had a Sunday school teacher who is still living. She's well into her 90s, almost 100 years old. And I would go to Sunday school and I would listen to these women of faith, and they would say things like, God's not a respecter of persons. If you work hard towards it, anything is possible. And I believed that, even though I didn't know how to achieve it. When I heard these women talk about these scriptures, it really took root.
So to believe it, to move in the direction of it, is a world away from accomplishing it.
Yes.
So you go to high school, you decide to go to college.
Yes.
If I studied my notes right, Emory and Henry?
Yes, Emory and Henry College.
What did you study there?
I studied history and political science. When I started out at Emory and Henry, I certainly went with the hopes and dreams of achieving that goal of becoming an attorney. But while I was in college, I conceived my oldest child. My daughter was conceived while I was an undergrad. So I had yet another hurdle to accomplishing that dream. So while I was there, I thought, law school may not be realistic for me. I may become a teacher. And I thought I would teach history once I finished my degree at Emory and Henry.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel.
So you had a child in the middle of going to college.
I sure did.
And how'd you feel about that? Did that dampen your dream? I mean, what you just mentioned was that it made you shrink your dream.
It did in the moment, but once I held that baby girl in my arms and I thought about the life I wanted us to have collectively as a family, I thought, I have to push forward towards this goal. I did not want to return to the environment that I'd grown up in. I wanted to be able to give her more, like any new parent, so many high hopes for my child. So I decided, and really had a fierce drive from that moment forward, that I'm going to push forward to achieve the goals that I've set for myself.
I love that word, decide.
Yes.
It is built on the same root as the word homicide or suicide.
Yes.
It means to cut off or kill all other options.
Yes.
Like there's no option. We're doing this.
Yes.
And that's the way you felt?
Absolutely. When I looked at my circumstances and even discussed it with people in my life, right? You can't always share big dreams with small-minded people or with people who maybe haven't achieved the thing.
Say that again. You can't, so slow down and say that one again.
Yes, you can't share your big dreams with small-minded people. Perhaps they haven't dreamed big, or maybe they tried and didn't succeed and shrunk back, and you can't leave your dreams in their hands, right? So as I discussed my situation with people, a number of people said, move home, go back to where you grew up and make a life there. And I thought, that doesn't sound like good advice to me. I want more, and staying in college, getting my degree, pushing for higher education seemed like the best way to achieve that.
So you finish Emory and Henry, and then you go to the University of Tennessee Law School. So you get into law school, or is my sequence wrong?
I got another degree in between. I earned a master's degree from East Tennessee State University. So although I had this drive and push and wanted to be an attorney, you still sometimes let doubt set in for a moment or a season. And I had a professor who pushed me and said, you should continue your education, whether it's law school or not, consider a master's degree. So I went to East Tennessee State University in Johnson City and got a master's degree in history prior to going to law school.
So then you get to the University of Tennessee Law School.
Yes.
And you probably didn't see many people at ETSU or at UT Law that looked like you.
That's absolutely true. Something that the University of Tennessee strives for greatly is greater diversity, particularly at the law school. But I'd grown up in that small town in Southwest Virginia. I hadn't traveled much. I hadn't seen a lot. So by the time I got to the law school, it was actually the most diverse place I had ever been personally. Looking back on that now, it was based on inexperience. But yes, I came to Knoxville. I did not know anyone here. By that time, my daughter was 2 years old. I came with $1,000 to my name, and I moved into a little one-bedroom apartment in Fort Sanders, and that's where we lived, and to start this journey of pursuing this law degree.
Raising her by yourself?
Absolutely.
Dang, boy, this story's getting good. Because you had to have some fire in your belly. If you just think about child care and all the stuff that goes along with that, and you're being ambitious and trying to pursue a dream, how in the world did you get that done?
Sheer faith and hope. I believed that if I continued to press forward, that anything in fact was possible, that God would reward my effort. And I figured that even if I fell short, at least I'd given it a shot, right? It wouldn't hurt having a year or two of law school, even if I was unable to finish. So we pressed forward. I was able to appeal upon the leadership of the law school that their rule that you couldn't work your first year of law school just wouldn't work for me, because I had a child to feed and I had to provide for my family, and they agreed to that. And through my tenure at the law school, I'm very proud of UT Law for this. As I would have challenges with childcare, for example, I never had a professor turn me away when I brought my daughter to class. And when we run into people that we knew back then, they'll tell stories about her sitting through class perfectly quiet while we learned about contracts or criminal law or torts.
So let me ask you this. You had to work your way through law school, is what I think I just heard you say.
Yes, sir.
What kind of work were you doing?
Any work that I could do. People love to hear the story that I worked for the university's athletic department. The Thornton Athletic Center is a...
That's a dining room.
Well, the university focuses heavily on ensuring that its athletes receive a quality education and stay eligible.
Oh, so you were a tutor?
Yes. I was a tutor and a note taker for the athletic department.
So you're over there helping other people finish while you're finishing.
Yes.
While you're working your way through law school.
Yes.
Man, you got some fight, some strength, some persistence, some perseverance in you. Where did you get that from? Watching your mom?
Absolutely. I come from generations of hardworking people that fought hard just to survive, to make a living wage. And I saw that work ethic growing up, and it was instilled in me, and I think that that is part of what helped me get through mixing faith with working hard.
I was in Boston, Massachusetts at this event, and I remember I was sitting in this place and I was with some really powerful people. I mean, you know, some really powerful people. And I caught this vision. I remember I was sitting in this room and I caught this vision. And the vision was of this: the generations of ancestors in my bloodline that dreamed of one day getting education, having an opportunity. And it was like I saw them at the doors of this building that I was in, looking in and going and being amazed at what I had accomplished and how far I had come.
Yes.
But at the same time that they were amazed, it was like they were going, you can't let us down. There's just too much sacrifice. There's too much blood. There are too many tears. There's too much pain.
Yes.
We need you to prevail.
Yes.
Do you feel that?
All the time, every day, moment to moment sometimes. My grandfather was born in 1908. He lived to be almost 100 years old. He saw a lot during that time, from Jim Crow to the Civil Rights Movement on into modern times. And once I'd finished law school, I visited him once in his assisted living facility. He had so many children and grandchildren that he did not call any of us by name. We were all gal or boy. And I walked in the room and he looked at me and he said, "Gal, are you the one that they tell me is a lawyer?" And I said, "Yes, Pawpaw, that's me." And he said, "Huh, imagine that, a colored girl, a lawyer."
Wow.
I don't know what memories were going through his mind in that moment, but I can only imagine the things that he had done, been through, seen, and survived, that I could even be alive and here and free to pursue these dreams, and what he must have felt in that moment.
So you finish UT Law, but then, if I looked at my notes right, you were teaching in the law school.
Yes.
From Withville.
Thank you. Yes, I had the blessing and the fortune to return to my alma mater years later and serve as a part-time adjunct professor teaching a variety of things from litigation to criminal law and other topics. And I can't tell you how surreal that moment felt when I got the phone call from former Supreme Court of Tennessee Justice Penny White to invite me to teach. It was so humbling. When I hung up the telephone, I sat and cried for a long time. It was very much a full circle moment.
But you did something else. So tell me what else you did.
Well, I worked for the United States. I was a federal prosecutor for the United States Department of Justice. And it's one of the things I'm most proud about in my career, to have the opportunity to walk into a federal court in this country and stand at a lectern and say, Brooklyn Sawyers Belk on behalf of the United States of America. Such a wonderful moment.
You know what I'm thinking about, and you shut me up if I'm wrong in this moment. But I'm thinking about a couple of moments in your life. I'm thinking about you watching the Cosby Show and going, wonder if I could be that.
Yes.
I'm thinking about you being in college.
Yes.
And you go, I'm pregnant.
Yes.
Then I'm thinking about the Department of Justice. Then I'm thinking about coming full circle at the University of Tennessee as an adjunct professor.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking about you getting the call to be the first deputy chief for professional standards of the Knoxville Police Department. This has to blow your mind.
It does. As a young teenager, before I left Withville, I would walk to work at a fast food restaurant. Walk to and from.
Which fast food restaurant?
Arby's.
Man, that Arby's sauce on a beef and cheddar with extra cheddar, hallelujah.
It was, the word I would use being a teenager, having that experience, was humiliating at the time. Walking in a fast food uniform, a good ways to get to that place, and working because I had to have school clothes and things of that nature. And then fast forward to standing in the main justice, Hall of Justice on Pennsylvania Avenue, waiting to meet the then Attorney General. It feels like two different lifetimes, two different places. I am very grateful that regardless of where you come from, that in this country, you really can become anything that you want to become, despite those humble beginnings.
You know, that's pretty special. And well, I think that one thing we haven't talked about, though, is the through line of your faith in God.
Yes.
Now, those who persevere, if they have a deep enough faith, well, this has been at least my experience. You have a verse that you lean on, that you've memorized, that you go to. It's that anchor verse. What is it?
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. In my hard moments, I think, God loves me so much that he sacrificed his only Son. Surely I will get through fill in the blank. And I meditate on that regularly. I have lots of those, but that is a bedrock principle going back to a very young age. Another is that we reap what we sow. And that's a reason that I believe in service. A lot's been given to me, and I think it's very important to sow it back into other people. I think about little me, young me, who had a dream but no idea of how to pursue it. And I think it's very important to be able to talk to people like that.
Is your mother still alive?
She is not. She passed away in 2019.
She got to see a lot of this, though.
She did.
How did she feel about this?
I think for her, it was wow, blessed beyond measure. To think about the struggles that she had raising myself and my sister, thinking about her own struggle with achieving her dreams. She was a very intelligent person, but she didn't have the opportunities that I had. She grew up and went to segregated schools for a portion of her childhood, and that had an impact on her and her outcome. And I think she felt blessed beyond measure that things in one generation can change so drastically.
Somebody might be watching this. They might be watching this anywhere. They could be watching it on YouTube or on television or streamed somewhere. What's your message to that person that is in their withville trying to figure out what they're going to do with their life, with their possibilities?
Stay the course. Press forward. For me, I've called it press forward to the upward calling of God. Press forward to what you believe in, what you want. If your current circumstances are undesirable, what sense does it make at all staying in them? Take a chance. Use your network that's available to you, from the Sunday school teacher that I mentioned to you, to the professor who pushed me to grad school, to my husband now, who's a fantastic helpmate and partner. Use your network. Lean on people who are where you want to go. For me, that was that television show, which, by the way, I own on DVD, and to this day, I still use it occasionally. But press forward. Don't look back. The technical terms for that might be perseverance and resilience. Lean in.
Lean in. By the way, Claire Huxtable, I gotta call it like it is. You didn't work for the Department of Justice, and you were not a deputy chief, so you need to watch her now. Brooklyn Sawyers Belk. Thanks for being on Anything Is Possible.
Thank you for having me.